to another edition of the Patriots Only Please podcast. That's a lot of P's. Please, another P, follow us at patriotsonlyplease.com.
Please like, comment, share, and subscribe if you would.
We got a lot to talk about,
we got to get serious here.
Yes.
Hi, TikTok.
Okay. So, one more point. Yesterday was my birthday.
Birthday yesterday.
So I'm even older now, and not particularly any wiser, but certainly a little bit wiser after we watched that debate. So the cool thing was the debate was on the 27th. My birthday's on the 28th, so I got to watch all of the post-debate commentary. And now on the 29th, which is when we're filming this, we are going to discuss the damage control.
Wow.
So yeah.
So I thought about doing I didn't do it. I did not do it, but I thought about doing a watch party. But I thought if it's as bad as I think it's going to be, it's really hard. It was hard to watch. And I don't think I think a lot of folks were doing that anyway. People with a higher profile, bigger audiences.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I wasn't gonna add anything to that situation. But I watched it, and I immediately thought Joe Biden looks much older than 81 years old, frail, senile, and shame on the Democrats. This is really bad, and shame on the media because he's been dodging their questions. He gives speeches and walks away and doesn't answer questions because there's no teleprompter for answering questions. There's no notes. There's nothing pre-written. They give him the questions in advance and what order they're going to be in and who's going to ask the questions, but he can't. We just saw for 90 minutes that Joe Biden was unable to hang, and it was hard to watch. And right from the start, I knew it was going to be a train wreck. And I thought, and I know President Trump realized that too, but this is not good for the country. I mean, all kidding aside, we're not fans of the president, but we are fans of our country. This is the person right now. He's the commander in chief, and the media and the Democrats have been hiding this from us. Shame on them. And now that we know the truth, I think we have an obligation to replace the president, vote him out.
Yeah, well, look, I think it is. You can say that the Democrats have been hiding this from us, but I don't necessarily think they haven't been hiding it from those of us who have been paying attention, right?
Yes.
I mean, these are all things that we, at least on our side, have been following forever. Who they've been hiding it from is you, the public, or at least those who are following on that side. They have been hiding that from the people, and I think we all have every right to know how our commander-in-chief is doing. I mean, they said for 4 years Donald Trump is incompetent. We have to invoke the 25th Amendment. I mean, I think if there was ever a legitimate case to be made for incompetency, it is with Joe Biden, and it was on full display for all of the quote-unquote normies the other night, 2 nights ago. Look, I think like a lot of people, the plan has always been they have to find a way to get Biden out. I know we kind of discussed that later, but a lot of people are talking about that, and not just on quote unquote our side. Right. There's a lot. I mean, almost immediately after the debate was on CNN, a very left-leaning network. It was a very safe space for Joe, right?
Yes,
he had every advantage. Even they could not deny the fact, seconds after the last word was spoken of that debate, that they are in big trouble. And even then, the biggest pundits in the political class and other elected officials, high-ranking officials in the Democrat Party, are openly now calling for what the plan B could be.
Right.
So,
I mean, Politico's headline that night, the night of the debate, the Politico's headline was "Biden is toast." Politico is a very left-leaning publication. They're friends of the Democrats.
The New York Times, for crying out loud.
Yeah, I actually, there's headlines from all over the world that are chiming in, saying the same thing. Most of them left leaning as well. 51 million people watched the debate. That's Nielsen TV stuff. They can't. There's no way they can know cell phones. So I'm sure it was much bigger than that.
Yeah,
that's the way that they're still able to understand who's watching a thing. Numbers, it's much bigger than that.
Well, because you can still look at all of the numbers from the live streams. I mean, the CNN, just as of this morning or this afternoon, the CNN live stream count from the debate, because they were the ones that hosted it, was over 10 million.
Yeah.
So that's so when you're getting those kind of traditional Nielsen TV rating numbers, that means a lot of people just in the regular world, the old school world out there, are seeing, unfortunately, even though it's been 3.5 years, they're just seeing how really unwell Biden is for the very first time.
Yeah, and as we said before in previous episodes, and as a lot of people in politics have said, the debate for some people was going to be the deciding factor.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, let's face it, most of the country has already just decided who they're going to vote for. I'd say 75% of the votes are locked up, right?
Well, you had messaged me shortly after, and I think my reply was, well, I hope it changes at least a few minds,
Right.
and you said that you thought it would.
I think it will. I think I think for people in the middle, for independents, for people who are just, I think, fed up Democrats. I mean, anyone that pays taxes, I'm sorry, left or right, this administration has been spending your money on a lot of stuff that doesn't have anything to do with you.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to have to pay it all back. Transferring other people's student loans to me? I mean, I could go on and on and on, and we will to a certain extent, but I mean, foreign policy, domestic policy, the open border, Afghanistan, on and on and on and on. Joe
Mm-hmm.
Biden's been a very, very bad president. And now we know, oh, also, he's a very, very old 81.
Mm-hmm.
And we're not ageists. We're not saying that you can't be 81 years old and do important things.
Nope.
I play tennis with guys that are in their late 70s and 80s.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, in pickleball, they're not running a lot, but they can hit the ball. They can play.
Sure.
There are people who are very, very young 81s. That is not the situation we have with our president. He's a very, very old 81 years old. Cognitively, he's declining. He's having difficulties finishing sentences. In what really hurt the most was you could tell that the week of prep didn't do anything.
Mm-hmm.
And when he did say his canned responses, he said them mumbly, and he said them with that. His voice was just so strange that night. And he just looked like an empty vessel. And it was heartbreaking in a sense, because this is the commander in chief, but also heartbreaking for me as a Republican, thinking there are people who are still going to vote for this person.
Yeah, well, and I think
out of spite, I guess.
Well, of course, and I think one of the reasons why they keep parroting a lot of the same now debunked talking points, highly debunked talking points, that the Democrats do, I think it's because, unfortunately, there are so many normies out there just watching on regular terrestrial television that are hearing these lies, or they just keep, you repeat a lie long enough and it just becomes the truth. You know what I mean?
Right.
And unfortunately, but then you got to wonder. I mean, Biden. Look, I certainly don't think he's running the country. A lot of people don't think he's running the country anyway. But I also don't think he knows what he's saying. He's just parroting what he's been told to say. He doesn't know if these have been debunked. He doesn't know how true they are.
I know.
So he's not even speaking of his own free will, to say nothing of how he's running the country.
No, I know. There's some footage that I saw online of when the debate ended. The candidates did not shake hands. They're not buddies in real life too. And Trump turned to his stage right and walked off normally.
Yep.
Jill Biden immediately ran on stage, grabbed Joe by the arm, and walked him down the short little steps to get to the ground. Short step by short step. I mean, he literally had to help him down each little step. It was, again, watching someone who looked like he was 100. Now, we know that he's not 100 years old. And again, I wanted to say really quickly for TikTok, everything that we're saying today is for educational and entertainment purposes only. But it was very difficult to watch Jill Biden help the president walk down a flight of stairs about this. It was 3 little steps, and Joe was just rickety and unsure and not sure-footed, and she had to almost kind of move his legs.
And what was that thing talking to him like a preschooler?
Oh yeah,
yes, you answered every question.
Who answered all the questions? Yeah, and in Atlanta,
here comes the airplane. I mean, it was ridiculous.
In Atlanta, after the debate, the Biden held a quick little rally for his supporters at the convention center, or wherever they filmed the debate. And Jill Biden was the MC, and I felt like she was emceeing a kids' party. Yeah, like a magic show for kids.
And what did Trump do?
Lied. He's a liar. And Joe answered all the questions. And
that's how you talk to a kindergarten class.
Yeah, it was so. So we and just if we could talk about some of the content of
Sure.
the, to me, I thought Trump was on point.
Hmm.
He was there to do business. He was there to let people know this man really is incompetent now, and incompetent not only. I mean, 50 years plus in politics,
Hmm.
36 years as a senator, 8 years as a vice president, 4 years now as the president, and he should be good at this. And not only is he not good at it, he's senile,
Hmm.
and that's those two things should make him unfit to serve. The one thing that Joe Biden said back in 2020 when he was running against Trump, the sitting president at that time, was because of Trump's personality and temperament, he's unfit to serve.
Hmm.
Well, guess what? Democrats, anyone that's still thinking about voting for President Biden, Joe Biden is now unfit to serve because he's mentally incapable of serving,
Well,
in my opinion.
he
Again, entertainment and educational purposes only. These are our opinions. We're not doctors. We haven't seen his test results. But has he taken a cognitive test?
no, but a doctor did deem him unfit to be prosecuted.
Which again, how does that work? How can you be unfit to be unfit to stand trial and still run the United States of
Yeah,
America?
but you're still fit to run the country, and it was all on display yesterday. These are not cheap fakes. These are
No,
not
no,
snippets. These are
no.
not you know that was the whole 90 minutes on display in a very controlled environment where he was given every advantage. And honestly, I'll repeat what some of the other pundits have been saying. Look, it could have been way more slanted.
Right.
The moderators did, I mean,
Did a
given,
great job.
you know what I mean,
They did
given the network that it was on,
Yeah.
they didn't really hammer him, which leads me to believe, I think it is because look, the the mainstream media has been running cover for this administration for 3.5, almost 4 years, actually longer than that, for the Bidens, for the Bushes, or for the deep state forever. So
I
it
would
when it
I would even add that especially CNN during the election cycle in 2020 campaigned for Biden.
absolutely, and
24
Hillary.
and Hillary
Mhm.
24/7. Trump sucks, vote for these people.
Absolutely.
24/7. It was
Absolutely.
shameful. It was shameful.
Absolutely. And
Sorry.
so no, and don't no, that's a good point. So they've been running cover for them for this long, and they cannot hide it anymore.
No.
So I think that, look, between the political class, which certainly includes the mainstream media,
Yep.
and all the pundits and all of the experts in the space, it has got to be at this point a coordinated effort, and they're openly talking about it. How do we get this man out?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, they could try to invoke the 25th Amendment, but now you have to deal with Kamala, who is even less popular. She is, let's be honest, the DEI hire. How do you just kick out the first female vice president who broke the glass ceiling? Not only the first female, but the first female of color to get that high up. You can't just put her on the bench.
No, the problem is
They got a problem.
the problem is the polls. She's polling very, very poorly among Democrats. Not only among all Americans, but
Mhm.
among Democrats. She's polling lower than Dan Quayle. But Kamala, I mean, if you're from California, you know what she did there.
Oh yeah.
She was not a. I mean, she was a terrible attorney general, and she got the gig. That's one theory. What you just said is one theory. The other theory is I don't really know why she got the gig, but I think it was. I think some people say it was Jill Biden's way of making sure the DNC couldn't get rid of Joe, because she's if again, this is a hypothesis. We're just conjecturing. We're guessing at this point, but a lot of experts have said that Jill Biden wanted Joe to pick Miss Harris because she knew how unpopular Miss Harris was, and would be, and that would secure Joe's position in the party.
Yep.
Regardless of his performance.
But her optics do help.
Oh,
her
of course,
party.
no
So
question.
so I think, and that
No question about that.
it brings up a good point about Jill Biden, because you look, she hasn't been the most visible first lady
No.
until relatively recently. And it's funny, I was watching Megyn Kelly. I was watching Jesse Kelly talk to Megyn Kelly. I don't think they're related or anything, but anyway, it was a great episode. And they were talking about Jill Biden, saying kind of the same thing. Like, now that she's kind of emerging more often, like what is she doing in all of this? Like, what is her standing? And I said it almost exactly the same time Megyn Kelly said, because she has aspirations of her own. She is a Hillary Clinton. She's in the background, just kind of waiting. because she wants him to remain in power. So maybe that can, in some way, translate later on into a political career for herself.
Do we know how old she is?
She's not as old as Joe.
No, she's
She's
not.
probably in her 70s. She could
70s.
still viably run or make a bid. So it's not. Hey, listen, truth is stranger than fiction, right? It's
Yes, it
not
is.
beyond the realm
No.
of possibility.
No,
It's
it's not.
and look, I will go on record here saying, so far, everything that all these conspiracies that people on our side have been accused of, so far have all come true.
They've all come true. They've not been conspiracies.
So
A lot of it is the mainstream media, the fake news. It's been a deliberate campaign to give Americans the impression that Biden was competent and not senile, but unfortunately he is. And so, if we can talk about the debate itself, some of the major gaffes, some of the things that really bothered me as an American, as a taxpayer, as a patriot, when Biden had the audacity to say that no soldiers had lost their lives on his watch.
there were 13 that died.
13 Gold Star families in Afghanistan.
Like-
would differ with you, Mr. President.
Yeah, like 2 days after he took office. What are you talking about?
Yeah. So
Just the withdrawal from Afghanistan was such a debacle. Anyway,
the ultimate insult to those families. And by the way, what no one talks about, which is amazing to me, is he gave the Taliban a country. They have a country.
and all of our weapons.
And all of our weapons in the most sophisticated airport. The Kandahar airport in Afghanistan is one of the most sophisticated, technologically sophisticated airports in the world. Anything that flies can land in that airport. That's not good. That our enemies have that now,
including all of the helicopters and planes and whatever and jets that we left them.
Isn't it funny how the mainstream media just stopped talking about that? This president, in the first month or two of his administration, gave a country to an organization dedicated to murdering people, and that's not news anymore.
And committed to the destruction of our own country, which could lead into the immigration problem,
and our adversary, and our ally in Israel. So again, not good stuff. And again, this is for educational and entertainment purposes only. We're not recommending anything. We're not here to tell anyone how to think.
No.
But we are pointing out what we see to be the facts. And the debate was obviously a win for Trump. And that gaffe, that thing about the no soldiers dying on his watch really bothered me because it was so blatantly not true. I mean, so much of, he didn't, what Trump did masterfully, in my opinion, was hammer away at two very important points. And I think for most Americans, these are the most salient issues today facing the country that are going to matter the most in November, my opinion. And those are the economy and the open borders, because they're connected. And Trump said something that's been on everyone's mind forever that no one, again, says enough. He's like, you can't tell me that these tens of millions of people aren't going to be taking jobs away from Americans. They're going to work. And there's only so many jobs. I mean, a lifeboat can only hold so many people. Ours is overflowing. So there's only so many life rafts on a lifeboat. These illegal aliens are taking people's jobs and medical services and transportation and it's enough already, and to keep the border open, letting them come in with no solution, no end in sight. I mean, that Trump's been big on immigration from the beginning, and that just in Biden's weak, frail response to that about the open border and he said the economy's great. Like, are you living in the United States, man?
He also, if you look at like the White House's latest tweet and and posts on Instagram and socials and all that, they're just talking about we're dedicated to keeping our border safe, and it's like, are you kidding me? We've sponsored this plan to, like, it still allows for 5,000 immigrants to come through daily. It still allows for it's
plus, not to mention, guys, this is just the same way that paying off student loans is an attempt, we feel, in our opinion, to get votes. Doing the Border Closure Act, or whatever he called it recently, limits the number of people coming in. But as we said before in our previous episode, it does not affect certain classes of people who have already been deemed political asylums,
which is everyone,
which is everybody. So it's lowering the number, but he's doing it right before the election, guys.
It's all for optics. He's politically bribing the electorate.
Thank you.
That is exactly what he's doing.
Bribery. Yeah,
I mean, it's political bribery. I mean, so that's not going to fly because, again, we have we have years of evidence of proof that the border has been wide open.
Right.
He's done nothing about it, and the border was secure under our last president.
Yes, it
So
was.
the point is, I mean, yeah, there was tons of stuff that they talked about, and then for Jill Biden to go on, what did Trump do? He lied. It's like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
Your husband has been lying for 50 years
Yeah.
in public.
Yeah, it was a rough debate. Joe Biden's week of prep didn't help him very much.
No,
He got a lot of it wrong. The debate's now been fact checked. Both candidates made some mistakes, but Biden made a lot more. And the difference is, again, and I've been saying this on the show from the inception of the show, the last election was a referendum on Trump as president, and COVID hit. COVID threw the world into a tailspin. And I think Trump did a great job handling it. This is a guy with no political experience whatsoever handling a worldwide pandemic as the president of the United States. I think he did a good job and handled it very well. But the last election was a referendum on Trump as president post and during COVID. This time around, it's 100% a referendum on Joe Biden as the president, and that's bad for the Democrats. And then that debate performance made it even worse. Let me ask you about Trump's performance. How do you think Trump handled himself?
I have to be honest with you. I mean, look, Trump is very consistent. You know what I mean? When he does his rallies, he plays the greatest hits. I mean, he's the Rolling Stones of politics. You know what I mean? He plays the greatest hits. But so it was a little frustrating for me to watch him, like when Biden said no one's died under my watch. It's like if it were me, I would have been. What about the 13 people that died on the withdrawal from Afghanistan, almost like on day 2 of your admit? Like, so there, I thought
Trump said that later.
He did say that later. Okay, that's true.
He caught up.
Yeah. So it's the one. Look, look. I've been a fan of Trump since 1987. I was 10 years old and read The Art of the Deal.
Wow.
So I've been a fan of Trump since I was a kid.
Wow.
Yeah, I read biographies about him. So I followed him since I was a kid. So I've always liked Trump, but the one thing that frustrates me about Trump as a politician is that I can understand why people don't like his personality.
Sure.
It's all about him, and I did this, and my numbers are this, my polls are just going crazy. But so I get it. I understand why people may not like his personality. So I think that in those moments, Trump could maybe, in some way, sort of humble himself a little bit and focus more on how the issues will affect people.
Yeah.
But I do know at the end of the day that his policies will affect us, in a positive way. So.
I thought he toned it down in this debate. I thought he stuck to the script. I thought he didn't do Trump a lot. It came out here and there, but one of the questions Dana Bash asked both candidates asked Trump specifically is if you plan on some kind of retribution.
Yeah.
He goes, my retribution will be success.
And he said that earlier too.
It's a great line, but it's a great line. He's like, I'm an America First president. I want the country to get back. I want to make America great again.
Yeah.
It's not right now.
Yeah.
And again, by hammering away at the economy and the open borders, and by making the connection between those two things, it really showed how weak Biden is. Biden had no real response for it, because there is no real response for it. And Democrats should be ashamed of themselves.
Well, and the other thing he said too, he said, look, I wish I didn't have to run.
Exactly.
Because, I wish he was doing well. I want the country to do well.
Exactly.
Said, but this guy's doing such a bad job, such a piss poor job that, I have to run again and risk all of the arrows and that are being
convictions
and the convictions and the prosecutions and the persecutions and everything. He has to go through it again because he went through it for 4 years, 5 years previous. So
before we started the podcast, I was speaking to Azura, our producer today,
co-producer, yes,
about the fact that whoever was directing that debate really did a disservice to Joe Biden by the split screen thing. Because listen, if they would have panned back and forth when people were speaking and not seen them what they looked like when they were listening to people speak, yes, deer in the headlights, slack jaw, just Biden looked like he was literally lost. And that didn't help him at all, because you could see that the wheels weren't turning. He was listening, but nobody was home. It's rough to see one of the worst debates in the history of our country, because the sitting president couldn't really debate. and he looked so frail. I mean, Nixon, the theory back in the day, this is going way, way back, the theory back in the day, one of the first televised debates when Nixon lost to Kennedy was that Nixon was sweating.
Yes.
The optics of that made people think, well, he must be lying because he's sweating. That this stuff matters to people. It always has, and it really should, especially in we live in a very image conscious world now with cameras and podcasts. Every phone has a camera on it. So it's like it looked and sounded as bad as it possibly could for the president. Plus the meat of what he was saying I don't think, how could that allay anyone's fears about anything? We know what Trump's vision for the future of our country is. It's very clear. Energy independence, closed borders, stop the foreign wars, lower taxes, smaller government, America first. So what is the Democrats' vision for America moving forward? Open borders, higher taxes, tax and spend, and spend. Title IX, men and women's bathrooms. I can go on and on. But I mean, energy dependence, endless wars. I don't know how it's defendable at this point. I don't know how anyone with a straight face and morals and with any rational person can say, yeah, I choose that vision. I choose the vision of the Democrats.
Well, the
endless wars sounds great to me.
The people that do that are just doing it out of spite. Now, hopefully, again, referencing the normies, hopefully those people who are either going to be so disgusted that they just sit it out, great, which works in, our favor, the other favor.
Right.
Or, if they do vote, I think if they do vote for Biden, I think it just never becomes more apparent. You don't care about the direction of the country. It's all about getting back at the other guy, and you just don't care at all about the state of our country.
It's true, but what's strange to me about that is that you're literally voting against your own interests.
Because they don't care about their country. It's all about being right. They'd rather be right. They'd rather go down and die being right than,
But it's also but the taxes and the spending and the amount of illegals pouring into the country is going to affect everybody.
Stockholm syndrome.
Yeah, I guess so. In a previous episode, I keep thinking about this, about going back to the fact that it seems like the mainstream media has really been protecting Biden by asking softball questions, giving him the questions in advance, letting him get away with not answering questions when he feels like it, and giving us all the impression that Joe Biden is. I mean, I can't count the times I've popped online and seen some Democrat somewhere going, Biden's at the top of his game, man.
Right before this debate.
It's incredible. This guy,
all of them.
This guy, I got to get extra 5 hours of sleep before I meet with the guy because he's so on it. Like
everyone.
So my point is this, and this is my sort of idea about why the left and Hollywood have always been connected. They're telling a story, and stories mean more than the truth to most people. So the mainstream media has taken a chapter out of Hollywood's book, and consciously or unconsciously decided to tell the American people a story that Trump bad, Biden good, even though Biden not so good mentally, still better than Trump. Like, no, it's not, because he's the commander in chief. He's got the nuclear codes, guys. He's deciding on he's in charge of our country, the leader of the free world. I can go on with the accolades, but it's too important of a position to have someone in there who not only can't do it, but who's spiteful. I mean, you talked about Trump's personality. I don't like Biden's personality.
Oh, God, no.
He's nasty.
He's a horrible person.
He's a really, really not a good guy.
He's terrible.
I mean, how many times have you guys seen the current president, Joe Biden, get off the airplane or get off the helicopter and not salute the soldiers? Pretty much every time. I mean, Trump, I don't care if he became a 15-hour flight and he rallied for 18 days. Each one of them. Hey, thanks, guys. And
I don't work for you, Jack.
But what
Remember
Trump,
that?
I do. What
Jesus?
Yes. What Trump said, again, one of my favorite debate moments was when the question was, Trump took the opportunity to use an answer to fire one back at Joe and say, by the way, the military, the cops can't stand this guy.
Yeah.
They can't stand this guy.
Yeah.
And then Joe had the audacity to say that the Border Patrol endorsed him. The Border Patrol immediately. The Border Patrol is a union, guys.
Yeah.
The Border Patrol is a union within the United States government, they immediately in real time tweeted back, we did not and would never endorse Joe Biden. We have endorsed President Trump. The Border Patrol, that should scream. It should be a huge red flag.
Yes, which is why it's so sweet watching the mainstream media and all of these Democrat pundits and elite class eating crow right now, because they have to backpedal, and they're backpedaling pretty fast, because they literally just days ago, Nancy Pelosi's like, he's never been at the top, more at the top of his game. He is the most brilliant political mind of the 21st century. I mean, just like, are you kidding me?
You're also quoting Gavin Newsom.
Gavin Newsom, who's just waiting in the wings, just waiting for his, just salivating for his turn. But I mean, so again, that's why it was so sweet, because it was just on full display for everyone to see. And now those same people who've been covering him for for not just the last few years, but for decades,
when he was VP,
are just like,
he was the same as VP, man.
What are we gonna do?
Well, we're gonna keep talking about it. We're gonna keep encouraging people. We do believe that all politics is local. So wherever you are in the country, whatever state you're in, if you're not registered to vote, please. We're going to encourage you to vote red down the ballot. We need more Republicans in our state assemblies and our state governments. We need more Republicans. I mean, there's a bunch of Republicans who are retiring federal level.
Yes, there are. So look, I think, we can go back and forth about our opinions, and clearly, I'm sure anybody who's watching this knows our opinions. And there's a ton of other expert opinions out there. I enjoy, again, Bongino, Charlie Kirk, Megyn Kelly, and all of the, Tucker Carlson, Ben Shapiro, all of them, and they're all saying the same thing. But so is the left. So at the end of the day, we can take our victory lap. Hey, it's a birthday present for me. Trump did well. Thank you. Cool. So I enjoyed that, and we enjoyed, this little news cycle. But act as though we failed miserably, and go out and vote, vote early, vote often, vote however you do. Because one of the reasons why the left is kind of crapping their pants at the moment is because it not only affects the presidential election, but it also affects down ballot.
That's
so
exactly
a lot of the political class are sitting here going, well, wait a minute. If people elect to either A, not show up, or worse, vote for Trump, they're probably, well, especially if they don't show up, they're not going to show up to be able to not only not vote for Biden, but to not vote for any of the other candidates down ballot.
Exactly.
So that's worrying the political class, the candidates, and it's also worrying all of the donor class as well. So this has repercussions and ramifications that are kind of, rippling out far beyond just the election. So in our favor, go out and vote in numbers.
Please.
Too big to rig.
Hashtag too big to rig. The elephant in the room that we haven't discussed yet, it's a small elephant. It's a tiny little elephant. RFK. RFK did his own debate.
I watched it this morning.
Twitter.
It was great.
It was great. It was great. And the night of the debate, after the debate, they did, of course, reach out to RFK for his take on the debate. And he said RFK was a Democrat his entire life. Left the Democrat Party to run as an independent for this election cycle because the Democrats don't want him. He said he was disappointed by both candidates' performances. But when pressed by, it was Sean Hannity who was talking, he goes, when pressed, who won? He goes, Trump clearly won the debate.
Yeah.
He's like, but I just don't think they just addressed the right issues about. If you don't know anything about RFK, you probably should. He's a very, very smart guy. Has a lot to say that's important.
Been around for decades.
He's that amazing history. This has amazing history, amazing person. He said, neither candidate mentioned the obesity epidemic in our country, and the drug problem, things like that. So I get his point, but let's face it, he's a fringe candidate. He has neither the name recognition or the money to step into this circle.
Which is crazy. The name recognition? He's a Kennedy.
He's a Kennedy.
His uncle was JFK.
He's, for some reason, the DNC, because he's said things that they don't like. He's stepped over the line with the Democrats too many times, so he's out.
I bet you they are regretting that now.
I'm sure they are.
Because I'm sure if they could run Kennedy on the name and the legacy and the second coming, and he can take on Trump, and they are, again, it's so sweet watching the entire establishment eat crow right now,
It-
and all of the missed opportunities.
Well, one more missed opportunity that the Democrats are living with is we talked about this before the episode started. The way that Democrat system works is there's a primary where they choose their candidate to go to the convention, and the Republicans had a closed primary because who's going to beat Trump? Why waste our time, right? Well,
Yeah.
the Democrats did the same thing. They closed their primary. No, I disagree. I disagree with myself. Trump wasn't given they had a primary.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, they did have a primary.
I mean, everyone knew.
Oh, very much so.
Everyone knew that
Nikki Haley.
Everyone knew that Trump would win, and he did win. So the Republicans did the right thing. I apologize. They had a primary. Trump won resoundingly.
Sure.
The Democrats had a closed primary. What that means, guys, is the Democrats said, "There's no need for us to run anybody else. The sitting president, the current president, he's our guy." And now they are living to regret that because the election is, 100 days out?
Yeah, something like that.
100 days. So Kennedy's not going to hop back on board and be their candidate. He's not doing that.
They will have to. So the question now, and a lot of people saying, who could that be? And I know for a long time people were kind of, bandying back and forth some names like Michelle Obama. It's pretty widely accepted across the entire political class that she has no interest in politics. She thinks it's disgusting. She just doesn't want to be in it. She will be putting herself up to all kinds of scrutiny that she just does not want or need.
She couldn't beat Trump anyway.
And she couldn't beat Trump anyway.
No.
People have been throwing out Gavin Newsom. I mean, he has a terrible record to run on. Currently, California is a failed state. People are leaving in droves. It would be hard. I do admit, though, he is very slick. He's very well-spoken. He is very Hollywood, and he could certainly try to run on his personality. But even then, he would have a lot of catching up to do. This is why I am convinced that the only viable candidate that they could run, and who's got the track record, the name recognition, and the only candidate that Kamala will take a knee to, Hillary Clinton. Everybody loves a rematch. The country would still get their rematch. Trump would still get his rematch. She would still get her rematch. It could be her again. That's the only candidate they could pull at this point. Newsom doesn't have time to catch up.
No.
Nobody knows who Gretchen Whitmer is.
No.
The country doesn't know.
No.
There's not enough time
No.
to build support for her. And nobody wants Kamala. But the problem is, if Joe either pulls out or is deemed, unable to finish the job, we're stuck with Kamala for the rest of the term, which nobody wants.
No.
They've painted themselves in a corner. If they decide to pull Biden, that means they have a lot of logistical and legitimate problems. They got to pull, support from all of the delegates because they've had a closed primary who've already committed to Biden.
Exactly.
Plus all of the donations that have gone his way that are pledged to Biden.
Exactly.
How do they move that over? There's a process.
It is.
The only person that can get through all of that is Hillary Clinton.
I think the problem with that is, if you remember, guys, Hillary had some health problems back then. She was not in the best of health. She's gotten older. She hasn't gotten younger. Trump has got her nailed in terms of how to crooked Hillary. I mean, he really tore. He beat her the first time. I mean, I think Trump. I think it's an easy win for Trump.
I don't disagree.
I think Hillary Clinton's an easy win for Trump.
I don't disagree, but I think that they're gonna have to run someone. Here's one of two things that have to happen. They either have to start a war and
no
election and call it, which is not as conspiratorial as it sounds, because they're currently doing that in the Ukraine right now.
Ukraine is there's no the election was supposed to be on May 6th in Ukraine.
Yep, it was called off.
And Zelensky said, "No, I'm not feeling it."
Yep, exactly. So I mean,
we're democracy, but I'm not feeling this.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
by the way, Israel has elections every 3 years. They have more elections than they have any country in the world. They're so democratic.
Yeah, so nothing to see here, folks. But anyway, so either that has to happen, which is a pretty extreme. I don't know, anything's possible, but we only have a few months left till November. I mean, just got to get through the summer. But or they got to pull a candidate. They got to run somebody. They know it's probably not going to be Joe. They're starting they're warming the public up to that now. That's why they let this debate happen in June.
You think so?
Yeah, absolutely. Because if they did it any later when they would normally do it, say in September, and they're apparently Joe is. I'm still going to do the one in September. So they don't they're running out of time.
That's another question. I'll ask the viewers, and I'll ask you. And this, I went live the other night, and this is my position on this. And this is something actually Lindsey Graham said post debate with Hannity.
I'm not a fan, by the way.
I don't. That's fine. I'm not either. He's a flip flopper in my opinion. But
he's a swamp creature.
What he said was, and I think makes a lot of sense. He goes, I don't think the American people or our adversaries need to see this again. No one needs to see this sitting president this frail, this senile, this confused again.
I think so.
I know. But his point was, as an American, as a senator, as someone whose job it is to help defend the country, our adversaries do not need to see this again. They're watching it in Tehran right now. They're watching it. Everyone on the world is watching how not awesome our president is. He goes, why do it again? It was that bad.
Other world leaders know that.
His point was, it was so bad, Biden's not going to get younger.
I know.
Biden's not older. I know that, but I don't know, man. I mean,
our adversaries already know that.
I know they do.
They already know that. And at least the footage that we've been seeing, the news we've been getting, I know everybody lives in their own echo chamber nowadays.
They sure do.
But I mean, but the news that we've been getting that maybe the left hasn't been is that, have you not seen the images of him being led by the hand by other world leaders? The rest of the world knows. Our adversaries know. I think the only reason why they haven't, China and Russia haven't just sent a fleet over here is because they're just waiting to see who us stupid Americans pick for their president.
Yeah.
If they pick Biden for another 4 years or whoever it is, they're just going to, that's the green light for them to go, okay, World War III, we're going to invade, we're taking over. If we elect Trump and do the right thing, then they might think twice about it. They'll
think more than twice if Trump wins.
We'll wait another 4 years. But so that, to your point about Biden's weakness, I think they're just waiting. Everybody's kind of waiting to see what we stupid Americans do.
So again, this is for educational and entertainment purposes only.
It's quite entertaining.
It's very entertaining. It's very educational, but we are just giving our opinions. I want to make sure TikTok understands that.
Sorry, TikTok.
No, it's okay. We've got to be very, very, very careful. But I don't know. I think that we've, to wrap things up.
Sure.
I think it's time to wrap things up. I think a second debate is not necessary, but if they want to have one, Trump's.
Oh, I totally want to
It'll be ABC. I think there'll be even worse moderators. There'll be even more pro-Biden. But by that point, is the damage done? They're going to parse this thing apart for the next 3 months.
They've been calling Trump a Nazi for 8 years, 9 years. Give Biden a second opportunity to hang himself. Absolutely. Let the people see it again.
I guess
because there's going to be enough time for people to just fall back into their habits.
Yeah.
Oh, they're going to pull something. They're going to, the propaganda machine is going to start in full swing.
That's a good point.
And people are going to be, whatever, by the time November comes around. I think if they can do it in September, even do it in October. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's always the October surprise that you need to watch out for.
That could very well be the switcheroo, but by that time,
it's too late.
So no, I think there should be definitely a second debate to remind everybody just how old and even older and more frail he is.
Yeah, that's a good point. You know what?
Twist that knife.
Now that you're saying it like that, people's attention span is so short. Maybe they do need to see it again. But
absolutely.
I just think it's, for Trump, it's a huge win, and for Biden, and for the Democrats, it's an even more awful thing than I just couldn't, dude. Honestly, by the end of the debate, I didn't feel bad for anybody because these are grown men. They wanted these jobs, but it's so obvious to me now that Biden is a really, really old, 81 years old. There's a lot of people who are 81 that are very active intellectually, physically. I mean, limited. They're 81, but they're still very much active and alive. Biden is not that. Biden's a very, very old, frail 81 years old, and it's frightening to think that this person is making decisions that affect not only our lives but the whole world.
Well, he's not.
He's not. But he's the face of it.
Figurehead.
And whatever's happening is happening on his watch. Every president inherits the thing that came before them. That's the way this game works.
Yeah.
So again, to wrap things up, we want you to vote for Trump.
Yeah.
We want you to vote in your respective states
Yes.
for Republican candidates, because I don't think we'd let something like this. I don't think on our side we'd let this happen.
No, look,
I think we do what's right for the country.
And please don't assume that this is a slam dunk.
I
That's
know.
another reason
No.
why I think we need another debate.
Okay.
The closer it gets to the election, too. The
Right.
closer, hey, if you want to do it in October, great. I think there was kind of talk about a loose one in September.
Yeah.
If Biden even lasts that long. But look, even if they do switch out the candidate, if they switch it out, even if it's Hillary, there's going to have to be a debate.
Yeah.
The American people deserve to see,
Yes.
you know what I mean,
I agree.
how she stacks up, even though she's well known. How does she stack up on the issues today?
Right.
You know what I mean? So that could be a whole other episode, depending on who ends up. But the point is, don't assume it's a slam dunk.
No, I don't.
Get in there
I don't.
and vote, and that's why there should be a second debate. And let's keep an eye on these people, especially those of you who don't pay attention. Now it's getting close, and they've let the cat out of the bag.
Let's wake up and pay attention, guys, please. And I don't know. I think that our previous episode was called Biden or Bust. We had a whole episode about, are they going to run Biden or not? That was pre-debate. The debate changes a lot of the metrics, because it has to.
Hopefully.
Because now the whole world has seen what was really going on. It's like and this is a very, very old film. Remember in The Wizard of Oz, when they pull the curtain away and it's a little tiny. It's like that's what happened.
The man behind the curtain.
The reveal was like, oh, he really is frail. He really is slow.
Well,
he really isn't speaking clearly.
And what are the implications of all of that? Okay, so if he is this slow and this frail, how long has he been this slow and this frail? How long has the media been lying to us? And if he is this frail, who's really running the country? Yeah. So this has layers that we don't have to get into now, but we can continue the discussion of this, because if he is this bad, how long has he been this bad? Yeah. We know how long he's been this bad, but you guys out there can start thinking of these things. How long has he been this bad, and who has been really pulling the strings and running the country? Because if he's not making the decisions, who is?
With that, we bid you adieu, bid you farewell. Always a pleasure, my man.
Likewise, and don't forget to visit patriotsonlyplease.com. We are on all of the socials. Please like, subscribe, follow, all that good stuff.
Comment, share,
all that. Thank you to our producer, Azura. Lovely and talented. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
And I guess we'll see you next time. Go out and vote.